Thank you and welcome for being here today. Today we are talking about when you're creatively blocked, burned out, or wanting to rebuild energy, set mindfulness boundaries, cultivate sustainable creative expression. How do you do this? How do you get past that funk? Welcome to Wellness in Every Season. We talk all things wellness to help you align yourself, align with your goals, find balance in your life, and just recalibrate yourself. If you are listening for the first time, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And let's get started in the rest of the podcast. Today I have with me Jenny Lee Hodgins, and we were just talking about this before recording, and this is such good timing to be talking about this because this is going on all around us within ourselves. And we're just getting through winter solstice where it's hard to really feel energized when we don't have enough sunshine. So I am so excited you're here. Let me introduce her just a little bit further and her business. And so her business name, if you want to go look it up at any point during this and you don't want to look at show notes, it's Your Creative Chord. And it's spelled like musical chord. Yeah. But she is a creative empowerment coach, author, poet, pianist, composer, and podcaster. So a little bit of everything. Sounds like the perfect person to talk to, right? And she empowers others with creating their creative flow, inspired living, helping people rebuild trust in their authentic process and restore energy. And we were talking about vibes. That's not quite the word that she used, but how she could tell that we were going to have this kind of vibe because we were both low key and very much about energy work and creativity. And I feel like that's all the listeners that are out there as well. This is what we want. This is what wellness should be, is living in that kind of alignment. And when we're not, of course we're burned out and we're struggling, but I know that it can be so much deeper than that. So I'm very excited to have you on. And first of all, welcome for being here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you. That was really lovely to hear. Yeah, it's nice to find your people.
Yes. And I think that leads to burnout to begin with. There are places where I've worked where these three women worked so well together in the HR department. And I know my husband's had places like that too, where it just functioned so well. And that just deals with energy level. And there are so many times where we're in social situations or with work or within our family or whatever, and we're not aligned in that. And that can be draining. And what do we do if we can't get out of that? We can't change it for some reason.
And so many of us are going through that. And I love that you hit right on the burnout thing because it's a cliche term these days. I mean, it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. I mean, I just have been experienced and am in burnout recovery. And I think one of the critical things is that people recognize it before it's happening, because I didn't. So I want to just bounce around a little bit with you, Autumn, because you hit this so well in what you do. I've been listening to your podcast. I get your emails. And one of the quotes that I got from you, I think it was in your email, it was calm the system, rebuild trust, create sustainable rhythm. That's an Autumn Carter quote, people. And it's very aligned with what I do to help overwhelmed creators or caregivers or just really busy, creatively curious adults that want to, excuse me, maybe explore creativity, but they're wiped out. They don't know if they can do one more thing. But you asked, what do we do? And really, your quote hits it on the head. I start with resetting our energy. That's the pillar of all my digital products, all of my signature coaching program, and it's literally what I'm practicing myself daily. It has to be a practice, I think, because we're in a society, and you talk about this with other guests that you've had and in your own solo content that I've heard on your podcast about how we're just constantly bombarded and we're constantly overwhelmed and in overdrive. and we're in that hustle culture. And so we have to really proactively change that. And it is a practice, a daily practice. So what I would say to your question is, what do we do, is exactly what you do. And a lot of what you teach, you practice more from comparing what I do to what you do. I sense that you practice a lot more of the somatic, you call it physical, getting in touch with what you're feeling in your body, which is very useful for people like me who are hypervigilant, overthinkers, ruminators, highly sensitive. And I don't necessarily gravitate to what's going on in my body. But resetting energy from my perspective, it really does tie into that, because what I do is simply pause and focus on ask yourself what you need right now. That's the bulk of it. And starting with your energy and what are you feeling? And it really ties into what you do. I just never thought of myself as being that focused on somatic or physical sensation. But what I focus on is, and I always start with reset first, because we do have to reset our energy. Otherwise, we're going straight like a beeline towards burnout if we don't align ourselves with our values and our goals. And that's why stopping and pausing and asking ourselves, what do I need right now, is a very simple first step. And then I go through a lot, the reset is an acronym, RESET, and regularly rest, essentials only. We do a lot of stuff we don't need to be doing. So honing in on what is really essential. I'll give an example of that. I just went through this yesterday. Essentials only, for example, I have our, thank goodness, thank you to the pandemic for bringing grocery delivery to my life, because I don't want to go shopping. But we always get our deliveries. I'm a caregiver for my 86-year-old mother, so we always get our deliveries on Friday. So you have to order it before that. And I intended to do that today, but my mom, I was just winding down last night, perfectly relaxed, ready to go to sleep, and she brings me her iPad. Can you finish the delivery order? And I failed my reset module. Instead of essentials only, saying I will do that tomorrow afternoon when my energy's recuperated. Instead, I did it. And I thought it was going to be like a few items. It's like this massive list, the amazing amount of groceries. So that moment of overextending myself to accommodate my mom, instead of staying in my lane and saying, I will get to it tomorrow because I'm going to bed soon. Instead, I looked at that screen and dealt with all of her issues. And then I couldn't sleep all night because the screen time kept me up. So this is a really simple example of essentials only. Was it essential for me to do that last night? No. So learning how to, at least I'm aware of it now. And I'm learning a lot of these things as a new solo caregiver in an estranged family dynamic. I'm having the full brunt of it on myself. And I've never been a caregiver. I'm not a parent, so, I mean, I taught 600 kids a week and 80-member choruses twice a week, but that's the extent of my motherhood. And so teaching myself, okay, what did you learn from this? I learned that I can't be looking at screens when I'm winding down to go to bed. It's like a no-brainer. It's what I normally do. But because my mom came to me, my old habit kicked in instead of being aware that I was overextending. So simple things like that, staying in your lane is the S of reset. And then it's R, regularly rest. E, essentials only, we just talked about. S is staying in your lane. That's a big part about healthy boundaries, internal, interdependent, workflow, external, all of these boundaries. And then the next E is embrace what nurtures you. And I think we don't do enough of that. And that's why we get into burnout, right? So questioning, what do you love to do? What lights you up? What is your dream? What do you enjoy doing? What makes you feel your most authentic self? Do more of that, basically. And then the T, I'm just running through quickly, is team build for accountability and support. And that's things like meeting your people and getting good feedback from other people like you, or even just listening to podcasts like yours is fueling, nurturing things that what you put in helps nurture you, right? And then a coach or a therapist or friends, or in my case, a robo-vac and mop, so I can just push the button instead of physically doing things like that. Just set up what you need. So I think this is just in a roundabout way to say that's basically my reset framework in a very high level overview. But I think these things are so life skill based, very common sense based. But even myself, as I'm practicing it and teaching and working with people, I still forget things like, no, Jenny, you don't need to do the grocery order at 9:30 p.m. at night. You can wait till the, just so really being aware of what is essential, what is not essential. And I'm learning a lot about what really isn't essential comes with interconnected with that same territory of learning how to set healthy boundaries. And that's a very broad, many pronged conversation, that we can have. But hopefully that answered your question in a very meandering way.
Yeah, I think yes. And we'll drill down into it in a little bit. But two different questions came up for me during this. What about the don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today? Let's tease that apart and tear it apart a little too. Because for me, it's having to undo that. Because there's certain things, and this goes down to what is actually essential, right? And oh, I have the energy level, so let's just shove everything else in there, and then I'm burned out the next day. Like, how do we prevent this? And like, how do we undo that thinking? Because so many of us were raised that way. Don't put off for
Mhm.
tomorrow what you can do today.
Especially women. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. 100%. I was going to say, you said, let's tear this phrase apart. Don't put off today, which don't put off tomorrow or what you can do today. Let's throw darts at it. Let's not just tear it apart. Let's like throw darts at it. And what I mean by that is I'm not trying to minimize. We do have priorities. We do have critical things that have to get done. But I think part of it is kind of zooming in on what really is necessary. When I'm looking at, it goes hand in hand with the boundary thing. Am I overextending myself? I don't want to do things or meet with people or give my services or energy unless I'm really my best. So, am I my best if I'm doing everything for tomorrow, today? I don't think so. I think we really have to use more discernment. I practice this every day. And I think a lot of it is weeding out old habits. In my case, hypervigilance, thinking that I have to reach a level of perfection. You don't need to, it doesn't need to be perfect. Maybe you do have to get something done for tomorrow. But, that phrase, done is better than perfect. Sometimes not even doing it can be okay. Do we really need to do it? Is it critical to our values? Is it critical to our long-term goals? And I think when we keep looking through that lens of, am I aligned with my values? Am I aligned with my goals? Part of that will help get rid of things that aren't really necessary that we're piling on there because of old habits. But also what I build into what I teach and what I build into my own life through the reset is taking mini breaks and scheduling in more white space and creating buffer time and mini breaks, things like just stretching, standing up and stretching, taking a 5-minute walk, breathing deeply for a few minutes, looking out the window throughout your day, going to get a cup of tea, whatever. And I think by taking those breaks, it kind of kicks us back into being a little more mindful of what we're doing. I think sometimes we have a mile high list and we're just checking it off and we think we're being productive and look how many things I can get done. But when you take breaks and you start to really continue to question what your values are and am I aligned with those values, you start to realize when you come back to the work after the break, you're looking at it differently. And maybe you have a little more wisdom from that and you can say, actually, these things are the priorities. The rest of it can wait. So I think it's a practice and aligning with our values, slowing down enough that we can tune into them. People aren't taking breaks. People aren't using buffer time and time away from things and shifting things to do things that nurture them. That's a very critical part of the true ability to be productive, right? And then lastly, just having those breaks creates more of a mindfulness around recognizing the habits that we're doing. To give an example, I'm hypervigilant. I grew up as a middle child enabler in a very toxic family dynamic. I'm estranged from them all right now. So my go-to is get everything done. So everybody's happy. Nobody's like at odds with anything. And that's just a learned response. And I think our whole society kind of functions that way most of the time. So learning to stop, learning to pause, again, asking myself, what do I need right now? That goes a long way. And it sounds very simple, putting in mini breaks to allow yourself to reframe and be a little more mindful, really focusing on what's the biggest priority and letting the rest of it go. Those are basic life skills and common sense, but not very many of us do it well, which is why we're in a burnout culture. So those are the things that I practice. Those are the kinds of very basic things that we take a look at.
Let's take it a little bit deeper. What about for those who are neurodivergent and they get that hyper focus going on and they're afraid to lose that hyper focus by going and taking a break? Let's talk about these people to make it more realistic. Because, like, in theory, yes, but will that work for me if I have these hyper focus periods and I need them? So let's
Yes.
talk to that group of people.
Well, I want to preface it by saying I'm not diagnosed as neurodivergent and I'm not qualified specifically to speak to just neurodivergent, but that's very what you just described about how neurodivergent people are hyper focused. I'm definitely that. And I think any creative person I've ever worked with or met or collaborated with, we're exactly like that. Once you get into a creative zone, there is no stopping us. And we can
Eat
go
bathroom break?
e-
What's that?
exact
Yep.
exactly days, hours, weeks without showering, taking breaks, eating, you forget all of that stuff. Even though it is common sense and it's research backed to do mini breaks and to hydrate and to eat well, we do know that apparently neurodivergent behavior is very similar to most, especially professional creatives when you get into the zone. So what do? I would say it really depends on the person, of course, and the specifics. But for me, when I'm in those moments, for example, if I had to compose music for a film score, I got in that zone and it took me 2 weeks and I didn't talk to anybody and I barely ate and barely went to the bathroom because I was in the zone. But after that, I make certain that I bake in white space. For example, now that I own my own business and I coach and I have my own podcast, I take the full month of July and the full month of December off all work. I don't guest appear. I don't work with clients. I still have automated things going behind the scenes. But knowing that this is a period of build or I'm in an intense creative zone and I can't necessarily, I wouldn't say afford, but because I don't want to let go of that focus of the creative zone, which I think is what you're describing there. Okay, I allow it to happen because that's authentic to my process. But then I bake in, you've got to recover. You've got to have something in there when you're done with that, whatever it is, whether it's a day off in nature or weeks of a nap or a vacation built in, whatever it is, you definitely have to do that. But the mini breaks I'm talking about in my reset, that works overall when you're not in that zone quite yet. But if you incorporate mini breaks throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the season, and after a heavy build, creating that white space or that buffer, you have to adjust it, of course, to where you are. But definitely that, what I've learned is that creativity, and I've talked about this often, has an ebb and a flow. The flow part is great when you're in the zone. We're outputting like the Dickens, right? But you cannot keep doing that sustainably. At some point, you will hit the wall, and I've been there. And so, what I've learned from that is I didn't respect the ebb and flow of the creative process, which is what I'm talking about. It's great to be in the zone. It's absolutely perfect if you want to stay there and focus. But if it's causing you to not be able to sleep well, you don't physically feel good, your ideas are frustrated, or you're blocked about something, that is an indication you need a break. And so teaching myself, and this is a big one that I'm practicing, that rest equals productivity.
That's a
Rest
hard.
equals creative flow. Because if you don't have that energy, how good is it going to be anyway? Feel
For
that
me,
way? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
What was coming up for me is my husband and I went on our couple's vacation with
Nice.
another couple, and we left our kids at home with somebody else watching them. It was amazing. That made
Wow.
me think about being on the beach with the ebb and flow. And there's times in our lives, especially after we've had this creative flow, where we need to stand back and
Right.
just absorb it and
Yeah.
just be there. be present for a little bit, and then walk away. Or maybe walk away and then come back. But it's that idea of, look, there's the beach again.
Yeah.
There's all this here. And it goes with, here's now my new task list, which is the fun task list. Because it could be really fun. You could be
Of course.
totally right there, flowing in your hobby, but then it becomes a job if you
Mm-hmm.
continue forcing the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we need this other task list. I'm putting in quotes here of like, here's my child, like stuff that would make me happy. Go out and rest in the hammock. Enjoy the sunshine. Go
Yes.
for a walk. Go and just sit with nature and listen to the birds and the squirrel in the tree. And if you are anywhere near a forest, like the deer, whatever other wild animals are around there, just absorb that. Go and be near a beach and absorb that. It's that chance to, it's kind of like the ocean where the ocean is absorbing all the water back. Go take a bath. Go read a really great book that is not for learning and it's just for fun. We
Yes.
forget the fun.
Yes.
And that's something that I've been putting back in my life, and it's been so fun. Hey, are you guys doing that to the people that I'm coaching?
Yes.
What are you doing for fun? I'm finding this for myself, and that's the way that I love to do coaching. Is I'll try the things on first before I'm like, have you tried this? Like, oh, this is working for me. You should try this too. Oh, that's working for you that I'm coaching. I'll try that too.
Yeah.
So that
Women are
that ebb
very
and
good
flow.
at
Yeah.
sharing and collaborating that way. What you just described is exactly what's on my keys to nurture your creativity. These are basically science, research backed, and experiential and embodied ways of boosting creativity. And for example, you mentioned a lot of it, basically doing things that nurture you, doing fun things. But the keys to nurture creativity, for example, because we were just talking about if you're really hyper focused and you're really struggling with wanting to take the break from it. And we talked about, well, that's okay. When you're in the zone, do what works for you, but then make sure you recover from it. And some of the things to recover are these strategies like that you just described, going out into nature. The other things on there, of course, getting more rest, practicing more stillness, like you said, reading books or going to see a movie or even having a great conversation with a friend or a like-minded person. And the other keys that I have on here are the top one is develop self-belief. And it is a practice reframing negative self talk to trusting yourself and acknowledging and praising and treasuring your life and what's good in your life and what you've got going for your strengths. And even your weaknesses can become the catalyst for, of course, creative projects or process. And also meaning and learning and becoming more resilient and all that. So, really focusing on your life, personal growth, and another key to creativity is practicing self-care, which is a lot of what you just mentioned. Yoga, for me, I practice as a Buddhist, so chanting regularly, which is a vocal meditation that I practice, and it's breath work, and it automatically, scientifically kind of restores my nervous system, gets that vagus nerve calmed down because it's a repetitive mantra. And so it's kind of like a breath work and it's a vocal meditation. So that's just on the surface of it. It's much more than that. But practicing things like that, resting, exploring other people's creativity, especially if you're blocked, that's a great way to, first of all, recuperate from your exhaustion, but it also gives you inspiration, anything that gives you awe, whether it's nature, spirituality, the arts, whatever it is, or even a conversation, because sometimes that just rejuvenates something in us. These are all like science-backed ways to nurture creativity. Another one is leave your comfort zone. And I'm not saying like, I talked about this on another show where I explained that I lived in Japan for 5 years. I moved, first of all, I'm from Kentucky. I moved to Florida, put myself through school there. I've taught music, piano, chorus, everything for like 30 years. I moved to Japan as part of that season of life. And then I came back to Florida, again, continued teaching. And now I'm back in my hometown as a caregiver for my mom. You don't have to do something as drastic as move into a foreign country where no one speaks your language and you can't find the food. I didn't even know how to speak Japanese when I moved. I just went. But leave your comfort zone is scientifically proven to boost new neurological pathways. And so even if it's something as simple as if you drive to work, go a different way. If you normally cook a certain thing, do it in a different way or a different pan. If you're a musician or a composer or an artist, use different materials or just shake it up, basically. Even a little bit, it will kind of rejuvenate, especially if you feel like you're stuck or if you're in a funk. And the last one of my keys to nurture creativity, besides the getting awed and getting out in nature, which is a big part of mine, getting awed, is to be better. And it comes from the Maya Angelou, once you know better, you do better. That was her quote. That's, be better is this constant personal growth journey that we're on. Just keep striving, because the more we're striving to improve a skill or trying to overcome a weakness, the things that we do to improve ourselves, actually, it boosts all those good chemicals in our system. And that typically will lead to inspiration, finding deeper meaning. All of that stuff will rejuvenate your creativity. So I love that you talk about, because they're literally on my keys to nurture creativity, all of those things that you mentioned. And I think we need to do more of the stuff that feels good to us. Maybe I'm making an assumption, but I think women in general, particularly parents or caregivers, we tend to overlook bringing ourselves joy. And that I've noticed that that is such a critical component. How can I help you if I'm not taking care of me? That's that whole, the cup has to be full, right? So I'm really kind of getting to that in my stage in my life from the journey that I've had. I've had as I think most women do, a long journey of hypervigilance and overextension at the expense of myself, erasing myself so everyone else is happy. And some of that was good because it literally trained me to be a great leader. I handled 600 kids a week and 80-member courses, and you can see balls moving in every direction very quickly. But that's not sustainable in the long run. I've really learned it's, really important to stay in your lane. And part of staying in your lane is nurturing yourself.
And it goes with essential, right? We forget that we are essential. Our
Good point.
self-care is essential. And we talk about self-care, but it's, well, what is it? And it goes back to what you're saying. What do I need right now?
Yeah.
Because that talks about what are you missing?
Yeah.
When you go into, I need this right now, usually I've been depleted of this for a while if I'm saying I need this right now. And I think it also, what came up for me is, what is something that I've done for myself that you've always wanted to do, or that you've told yourself you've never been good at? Gives you
That's
a
good.
really good indication of this is what I should start doing to form those new neural pathways, which
Yeah.
is
And you can
very
take
important to
baby
do.
steps. Yeah. And you can do that in baby steps. You don't have to,
Class.
all at once. Right.
And you're
Uh-huh.
not going to be a Picasso just
Well, you
from
might.
one day to the
You never know.
next. That's true. More than likely, you're not going to be. How's that? Don't
But
expect it.
you think about that, so many, it was Grandma Moses, I think, if I'm not quoting wrong, she didn't start painting until she was like in her 80s or something, and she was phenomenal. And I knew a Japanese woman, she's late now, but she didn't learn to paint until she was in her mid 70s, and she was phenomenal as a portrait artist of animals and wildlife and all that. I was like, whoa. And my mom she's a taught artist, she does pretty much everything. But my point is, you just don't know what's in you, people. We all have this creative, amazing voice that's in every single human being. I've had some training in music theory or piano skills or vocal skills or whatever. That's great. That's a skill. That's not, the creative flow is in all of us, and you can tap it at any time, and skills can be built. That's something we can all learn. I just want to kind of bang on that a bit, because so many adults think they are not talented. When we start painting, we likely won't be coming out like a great artist in the first place. But you never know. It might really tap something in you. And then you start learning some skills, and it really does go in that direction. So the world is your oyster, right? And it's wide open in that way. I think
Yep.
it's important that we trust in that, that
Yeah.
so many people have closed that door. I can't tell you how many people have told me I'm not talented, or I can't sing, or I just don't have any rhythm or whatever. That is incorrect. No, that's not correct. Everyone has it in us. It's a matter of finding, and I'm sure you understand this, a learning style that is best for you, and a teacher that really listens and hones in on that learning skill so that you can build the skills that you need, finding out what the hang up is on a certain skill and working with it. There is nothing we can't accomplish creatively from my personal experience, but also I've taught thousands of people that thought they couldn't do a thing. And then they come through this process and realize it's like an awakening. We all have it, is my point. And that's why that self-trust part is a big part of my program. Learning to trust your own creative voice. It's authentic to you. It's different than anybody else. Just trust it and go with it. And it will bring you so much joy and so much meaning. And you never know what direction it's going to take you. And I'm just harping on it because I don't want people to think that it's a closed door. Creativity is unlimited and it's always open to every single person, is my point.
For me, for the longest time, and it was because of parenting gone wrong, that I needed to be perfect the first time I tried something. And then being married to my engineering husband and
Oh, well,
using the way his brain works and the whole engineering process of, no, it's the process of learning it and perfecting it and
yes,
having it be perfected for you, not for the staying in your lane thing, not for everybody else. Like
yes,
this works for me and it's
lovely.
done in my tune, my colors, my whatever. Like this is built for me. And then if I want to replicate it to work for other people, great. But
Yeah,
it's really having it be mine, having it be my process, my learning. And once I figured that out, I have such a thirst for learning and it's so fun and finding ways to apply it to me, apply it to my family life, apply it to coaching, apply it to help other people with it.
I love
But
that. Yeah,
looking at it, it's not just the way my parents raised me, it's the way their parents raised them. And
right.
looking at it further,
Intertwining.
it's very much society. Like, if I'm not
Yes.
perfect at it the first time, then forget it. But you should enjoy the process of
And I would,
realigning it and staying in that curiosity and staying out of the judgment as much as you can.
yes, yes, all of that. Yes. And I wanted to add to it, first of all, there is no such thing as perfection in terms of in creativity, perfectly flawless technical performances. For me, they leave me empty. I want to see the humanity in you. I want to see the struggle. I want to see the imperfections because that's how I feel it. That's how I relate to it. Also, I wanted to say that 100% I'm like you in the perfection syndrome. I think it's so prevalent in our world, and especially for women, we think we have to fight hard. I mean, there was some statistical study that had been done about, but it's on all over the place where men who apply for a job, they look at the job description and think, I might be 60% ready. Okay, I'll apply for it. I can do it. And women are like, wait, let me get to
110.
99 point.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of women, and I think that comes from a lot, historically, especially women are so hard on ourselves is the point of that. And the part of creativity, and not just creativity, but personal growth in general, but is that we have to recognize failure is actually data. You think about Thomas Edison, that for, he took supposedly like 1,000 tries before he got the light bulb invented. And some reporter said, how does it feel to know that you failed 1,000 times before you got here? He said, no, I found 1,000 ways this doesn't work. So he knew that it's just data. Failure is just data. And for me, as a creator, as a creative empowerment coach, when I quote fail or make a mistake, whether I'm composing or writing poetry or whatever, I don't fault that. I trust that that's coming from my inner voice and it's taking me somewhere. So I just go there. Later, like you said, we want to get rid of that inner critic. Later, we can bring the inner critic in after we've let ourselves trust our inner voice. We can bring the inner critic in to do what it's meant to do and edit it and make it better and improve it. But I think the big hiccup for a lot of people, myself, I had a hard time with that initially, but I'm over it now. Like I've learned that failure means something different, like something new has entered the picture. There's data, and I can look at that and think, where's that taking me? Where did that come from? And oftentimes it will take you in a completely different direction you would never have thought of if you hadn't allowed for that to happen. So I'm hammering this so hard because we're in a society, especially when it comes to being creative, where people think making mistakes, not being perfect, not being flawless is the end all. It is really not. It is if you talk to any professional creative, mistakes are part of solution finding to make it better, to improve it, or to bring it wider. And you've just really got to hone into that. Again, hammering back to self-trust and working on your authentic voice and trusting it. And if it comes out of nowhere, and instead of immediately thinking, that's not perfect, or, that's not what I intended, or that's not good enough. No, it is coming out of you for a reason. So follow that breadcrumb and see where it goes. And later, after you've been in that process for a while, then you can look back and bring your inner critic into the process. But don't do it in the middle of the process. Let it flow and don't question it. Just trust yourself is the bottom line there.
I
I'm
like that.
learning that. It's so wonderful because it frees you up to enjoy the process instead of bringing that baggage and beating yourself up through that process. You can really enjoy the therapeutic benefit of creative flow.
That reminds me of some friends of ours when we were in college. His car broke down and we were towing it. My husband could tell that there was a difference in trying to tow the car when the parking brake was on compared to when it was off. Right? Because the friend was like, "Oh, I forgot." How many times do we do that though with our creativity?
Yes.
We're pressing the gas, we're not going as far as we want to, and it's because we have the parking brake on.
Yeah.
I've done that when I was first learning how to drive. I went from learning on a stick shift to learning on an automatic. And my stepdad looked down and he's like, "You have both feet. One on the gas, one on the brake." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's why I'm not really going anywhere."
Minor detail.
We do this with our creativity. And if we're going to go back to Thomas Edison, it goes along with he had people around him.
Right.
Most
He
of
had a
us know
team.
that he did not create the light bulb. His name
Yeah.
was put on it. He had a whole team of people. And then the other thing that I've learned about Thomas Edison is that he would sleep, don't do that. But he would set himself up in a way because when we get into this type of meditative state, we get really creative.
Mhm.
When he would start to get into deep sleep, then he would set himself up on a chair so that when he got into the deeper sleep, it'd wake him up so that he could hurry up and get his ideas down. So it's that idea of we need to step back and then we can have the ideas. When we're stuck in that really frustrated state, that's our time. Go take a walk, whatever, step away, and let us totally unplug from it because our brain will still be working on it, but just kind of kick it to the back, the subconscious, and focus on something else for a little bit. Focus on you need to rest.
Right.
And we live in such a society where we think rest is sitting on our couch scrolling or watching a movie. That is not rest at
It's not
all. We
right.
need the rest where our brain is totally like,
Free.
done. That's
Yeah.
meditating, that's taking a
Right.
nap, that's going in nature, go on a hike where you have
And
the
good
beautiful
sleep.
waterfall at the end, beautiful scenic view at the end.
Yes.
Get out and just remember that there is more to this life than whatever your little world you've decided it is. And the other thing that goes along with what you're talking about is it goes back to does this job align with what I'm doing? Do
Yeah.
these people in my life that I'm spending time with
Right.
align with my energy level, with my goals? It's that reminder of do I need to be doing these things? Is this hobby still fulfilling me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this relationship still
Yeah.
meeting my needs and am I still meeting their needs?
Yeah.
What do I need to change about it or should this relationship continue? There's so many things that we are spending time in this grind that we're not connecting with ourselves to go,
Yeah.
is this still right?
And that pause and asking, what do I need right now, can really illuminate a lot of that. And what you said about Edison struck me that I didn't know any of that about him sleep depriving himself. No, I agree. Let's not do that. But sleep is, I see what he was kind of getting at was, when people that work well at night, for example, when you're really tired, you can be very creative because all your inhibitions are gone. And that may be where he was going. And also just a reminder, and to piggyback on your thought there, that getting a good night's sleep, Edison was onto something. Sleep can solve a lot of those problems. And everything you described can solve if you're up against a wall with a creative block or trying to solve a problem or even questioning your life in those ways that you just mentioned, and you're kind of lost or stuck, taking time to really get a good sleep on it is, an old maxim that really works. And I think it works because you're finally taking care of yourself. And like you said, your subconscious never stops. So you can relax and let the sleep figure it out for you. And doing things like that's why they talk about people getting amazing ideas in the shower, because you're doing something mundane, and water has a great effect. The soothing, calming of the water probably helps that a lot. Or going out, like you said, in nature, just getting your mind away from it, like you said, not with screens, not with TV or gadgets, going away. And just even if you're doing yoga or meditation or sitting and looking out the window for 5 minutes, having a cup of tea, whatever it is, those things do rejuvenate all of that. It's amazing because creative flow basically resets itself when you take care of yourself, is the nutshell of that. That's so cool, though. I did not know that Edison did that.
I don't
You
even
know,
know where I picked it up. Maybe in one of my college classes, maybe on YouTube.
yeah,
But it's interesting, that reminder of it. There are things in our lives that deplete our energy and that give us
yeah,
energy. And that's
yes,
that creative energy, those ideas, oh, that extra breath out, that
yes,
I can do this, or
yes.
whatever you need in that moment. And it
Right.
goes back to, what do I need right now? Maybe you
Yes.
need to call up that girlfriend that is really great at encouraging you,
Yeah.
or that other friend that will totally not take your BS and will call you out on it. What do you need right
Right.
now?
Yeah.
Take that time. Don't be working through lunch.
Right.
We are those type of
Yeah.
people where, oh, we're sitting down for a meal and it's not a family time meal. Okay, well, I can do something else while I'm eating.
Right.
Really do that. Usually it's I'm reading a book, so I'm still unplugging, but am I really?
Yeah.
So it's that reminder of, how am I doing right now?
Yeah.
What do I need? If I'm trying to tack on a whole bunch of things in this what do I need time, then
Mm.
that's an indication that I need more white space.
You need to align yourself better. Yeah. And I love that you brought up don't do something else while you're eating at least 30 minutes a day. Just eat. Just be mindful of what you're eating and enjoy and be in that. That's mindfulness practice right there that we're not used to doing. And I wanted to back up, if you don't mind. I was just going to say what you described about, paying attention to does this job suit me? That's exactly where I was. I was teaching in public school system at that point, and one of my friends said to me, I don't know how to take this exactly, but they said, Jenny, your personality is way bigger than that system. And they told me that years ago, and probably 4 years before I left that job, I realized it's true. And I know so many teachers that are just buckled over from the sheer amount of tasks that they have on their backs. And I did the same thing. I wanted to create a very quality music education program for the students, but they didn't give me the time of day to actually do the work to accomplish that. So we take our work home every night. We work on the weekends. We work on our vacations. And I had that. That's part of the accumulation of my burnout, which is why I do what I do now. And I recognized, wait a minute, this is not actually what I set out to do. Of course, I want to empower anybody, kids and of all ages. I've taught from 4 to 90 and everything in between. But I don't want to do it while I'm overextending and to the detriment of my own wellness. I see so many teachers who are still in that system whose health is terrible. They've died of cancer or whatever. They're overweight, they're miserable, and they just keep taking it. Being of service is a big thing, for many teachers and for many women in society. And I'm not knocking that. I think it's valuable. But what I've learned, big wake up for me is, yeah, you can be of service and help others without erasing yourself, without the detriment of your own wellness. And that is what I do for myself. And that's what I teach in everything that I do. And I think it's so critical for women and very aligned and synergistic with what the work that you do for all of your clients and through this podcast, because people don't recognize that. People, meaning specifically mostly women. I'm not saying that there aren't men that overextend themselves. I'm sure there are, but the vast majority of people I've seen are women who are just expected, and they teach themselves to expect, to overextend at the detriment of their own well-being. And it does not have to be that way. And I have very intentionally left that job came up here, rebuilt and built a business so I could be in place to help in a caregiving position for my 86-year-old mom, thinking I would have some help with other family members, but that didn't happen. But I feel like so much more aligned with what I'm doing. You don't have to fit yourself into the mold of what somebody else or some other system wants you to be. And if you're working for a system that may not feel aligned for you, I'm not saying everybody go quit their jobs, but there are still things you can do to just really check in with yourself and am I aligned with this? And if I'm not, what's wrong? Like if I had to do it over, if I was back in the public school specific job, probably what I would do is, if I knew my program the way I've built it now, is I would bake in rest periods within the classroom itself between activities for the kids and me, and in between classes, because I had 8 classes a day, sometimes double or triple sizes from what normal classroom teachers had. So I bake in that downtime, and I would definitely let go of the idea of the kind of quality program I could design and still focus on the quality, but let go of a lot of the non-essentials so that I'm not taking work home. I'm not doing it on the weekend. If I'm going to create a program, it has to be done during work hours. If there's not enough time to do more than this, then this is what we're simplifying it to, and we're going to make the most of that. That's what I would do, and that's what I would recommend for people who may not want the drastic step of quitting their job and moving to another state or whatever. But there's still things like you're saying that we can do to check in. What do I need right now? Is this aligned with who I am and what I want to accomplish in my life?
And it
Kind
allows
of
you to be
aspire.
present in all those
Exactly.
settings
Exactly. Yeah. And
instead of
that's
thinking about what should I be doing next.
yes. And that's the whole kind of crux of what I do in my life and with clients is it starts with energy management. How do we manage our energy? Well, we have to know what our values are. We have to align our energy to our values. And that little piece right there sometimes can be so overwhelming for people. But honestly, it just starts with self care, with pausing, stopping, resting, and taking it in small bits and pieces in a very self compassionate, little bit by little bit manner. And you get there. It doesn't have to be a major dramatic shift. I think it's amazing too that when I stop and rest, I've learned that I'm very uncomfortable relaxing. So I'm still practicing saying to myself, okay, I'm uncomfortable. I feel like I should be up doing something. Everything I'm doing is, as I said earlier, rest equals productivity. Rest equals creative flow. So you can't have good productivity or good creative flow if you're burning candles at both ends all the time. What you're doing is equally as important as the tasks you're going to do when you get back to work. So just having that conversation with myself and saying, yeah, I'm uncomfortable. Get used to it. You're going to feel uncomfortable. You're not used to sitting still. It's your hypervigilance. Breathe and just relax anyway. Just simple things like that. Did you ever go through that when you're learning to relax?
Have
You,
those moments.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's if I am choosing to do something for the relaxation, sometimes that helps.
If you're
Like,
choosing
okay,
something, what? Would you
so
repeat?
yeah, so I'm focusing on breathing instead of just
Right.
totally zoning out.
Very good.
Or I'm going to go sit in my massage chair for a little bit,
Yeah.
or I'm going to do a guided meditation. So it doesn't have to be I'm doing literally nothing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it needs to be I'm literally doing nothing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's I'm sitting down and outside and I'm listening for the birds. I'm going to listen to one specific bird sound and see if I can hear that bird. Who knows? But like maybe instead of letting your mind just wander, which can be so good for you, it's so cathartic to just
Yeah. Yeah.
let those trains go.
Yeah.
But sometimes I need to focus on my breath. I need to do this specific yoga pose because I'm feeling really tight in this area and I'm just
Yeah.
going to breathe and
Yeah.
just do that. I'm not doing a whole flow. I'm just sitting here
Right.
and doing that. For me, earlier this morning, it was
Yeah.
child's pose.
Yeah.
So it could be any of those things. Can
Okay.
you tell us where to find you?
I can First of all, thank you so much for having me and for ingraining in me the reminder to slow down and rest and pause and take care of myself. And I hope everyone listening is feeling that.
Even people who
Um,
are good at it need that reminder. I need to
yeah,
remember that.
yeah,
Okay, this is still a journey and I'm still always going to need this reminder and it's okay.
yeah. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Just remember it's a practice. It's not a perfection. Yeah. So you can find me all my books and digital courses, my signature coaching program. It's really for training, support, and encouragement for creators or caregivers or the creatively curious. Anybody that really wants inspiration for joyful self-development and sustainable creative living. You can find, I have a couple of resources. If you're feeling overwhelmed or burned out, you can find really practical support by getting my burnout reset guide at yourcreativecord.com/burnout guide. If you want to kind of explore practical tools to tap into your creative flow and inspired living and kind of the overview of the concepts that I talked about today, you can get my creative empowerment sampler at yourcreativecord.com/get inspired here. And you can find everything, my books, my podcast, my courses, my coaching program, everything, any way to work with me at yourcreativecord.com. And it's CHORD, like a piano chord or a guitar chord.
And it's in the show notes, so look there in the
Thank you.
description and you can just click on it. But if you're like me and you let the next podcast episode autoplay, it's right here. We told you where to go. Press pause and you can hurry up and get there. Thank you so much for being on. And I love this conversation. And I'm going to be thinking about it for the rest of the day. And I hope everybody else listening does the same.
Thank you so much. Me too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope that you found the answers that you needed and you had some amazing aha moments. Please share this episode with others because it helps us align ourselves and then better align the world so that we can seek the healing that we really are looking for. As part of the legal language, I am a certified life coach with a bachelor's in applied health. That is what I am leaning on for this. This is general advice. Take it as such. See you in the next episode.